Mayor. Mr. Manager, this is a serious public health issue. Asbestos was banned in the 80s and 1980s because it causes cancer and mesothelioma in people who are exposed to it. I have received reports on the presence of asbestos-containing materials and removal of those materials in the units at North Common Village. I also listened to the former building commissioner on the radio, who raised awareness to the fact that he wasn't aware of any asbestos abatement testing or any other documents that were submitted to the office. And I would like to know why. No, Mr. May, I'm sorry. But to me, the law is clear. Mass Code of Regulations 310, Section 715, lays out the criteria for what has to be done for the removal of asbestos to protect workers, air quality, and most importantly, the residents, the public. Asbestos is regulated by many agencies, but most importantly, DEP. OSHA gets involved when it relates to workers. There's specific training that has to be done. There is protocol for removal of asbestos. Now, I understand there was some information on our desk tonight, dated today, from the Housing Authority. And this relates to the boiler replacement back in '89 when, I guess, the Executive Director Michael McLaughlin was there. That's not what my concern is. My concern is the 132 units that were rehabbed. Asbestos is in many products. It's contained in the tile floors, of course, pipe insulation, wallboard, ceiling tiles. There's quite a list of products that it is contained in. So, Mr. Manager, the reason I filed this motion is to have you go to the DEP, because I want to know if proper forms were filed, were proper procedures followed, because there's a very specific notification process on the removal and demolition. We know that the demolition was done down to the studs. But I do want to know if proper notification procedures were followed for these units in informing DEP of the work. And were the workers trained? Were they properly equipped with the proper attire? Given the age of these buildings, Mr. Manager, I believe it's incumbent on the city to contact DEP and request any reports on asbestos relative to this project to ensure that the public health is not compromised. Considering the way this project has been mishandled and the fact there's been lack of communication, lack of oversight, lack of permits pulled, lack of inspections done, I want to know what's in these units and validate what hazards were in these units, where the waste went and how it was disposed of, who disposed of it, was it contracted, and was it signed off on the other end. Considering the history of this project and how we were told there were no code violations in the work that was done, only to find out there were numerous code violations, I think it's vital we get an independent certification or reports from the DEP on asbestos. think that's all.
Just in response to that, just a couple of points. Obviously, I can't force the Department of Environmental Protection to give us anything. I do know that they have been out to the site, we've been in communication with them. The issue of asbestos is not something that falls within the jurisdiction of the city, but we have been in touch with the Lowell Housing Authority to ask for any information they have based upon the accusations that have been made. And the document that you have in front of you is what as they indicated, is what they were able to find in their storage facility related to the boilers. They're seeing what other information they have available regarding asbestos abatement that took place at those properties. We do have information, and we're waiting for the written report on this, but they did, we suggested, and they agreed that they had a Mill City Environmental on site today conducting asbestos analysis in units that have not been rehabilitated. And because it was certainly assumed that if they hadn't been rehabbed, we'd be able to see what asbestos was there. There is no asbestos in those units. So by indication or the accusation that there was illegal disposal of asbestos or treatment of asbestos doesn't seem to be the case, given they haven't found asbestos in any of the units that haven't been rehabbed. And they believe that much of that abatement did take place at an earlier time. But again, the Department of Environmental Protection has been out there, and we'll be in touch with them to see what type of report they can give us.
I mean, they didn't do that in-house, so it would have been done by some outside company. So, and I'm then assuming that those people would have used the proper equipment and clothing and so forth, and done it in a responsible way. But this is, this issue just keeps on going on. And I heard a portion of the radio program that Councilor Elliott is talking about last Saturday, and for stuff like this, it's just better if you can just end it and bring it to a conclusion. And the best way to do that is find out exactly what happened. So, although the Department of Environmental Protection may not be responsive to you, I would assume that the Lowell Housing Authority would be responsive to you, and then they'd be on the record as to whether there was asbestos, whether or not they spent money and who they spent it with, and so forth. So if Councilor Elliott has no objection, I'd like to just attach that on to his request.
Mr. Manager.
Councilor, I think we can certainly do that. I do agree that that's probably the simplest way to do this. And I couldn't agree with you more that it seems that this doesn't, it just continues and continues. And, I have no doubt that, I know I think there's another motion on here regarding lead paint. And those, we do have reports that all those units were abated several, 20 or so years ago. There was no lead in those units. That was another accusation that was made by the former building commissioner, the concern that sort of implied that that was the case. But the reality is that those had been. But we can get a written document, I'm sure, from the housing director that with regards to the asbestos, but by all indications there was not any asbestos in these units. But we will see if they can just put that in writing to us and be done with that. The sooner this can be over, the better. But it seems, again, I think that it's in some people's interest to prolong this.
I would agree with that, but I don't include Councilor Elliott in that group. I think it's absolutely proper for him to do that. This is just something that's on the street and on the radio, and there's people just keep on talking about it. I've heard about it for a couple of months. I heard about the asbestos back in November. So I think this is a good motion. I just think it's good to get to the bottom of it.
I want this problem to go away, but it has to go away in the proper manner. This whole discussion, we've only learned about this for the last 3 months, Mr. Manager. You've known about it for years. So to say that we've received, a packet of information and that there is no asbestos, first of all, there are rules and there are procedures. Maybe, do you know the law? Have you looked at the law, Mr. Manager?
I have
Okay, well, there were notification, including, you're supposed to notify 10 days in advance to the Department of Environmental Protection.
If you're
And
touch-
provide
if
the
you're touching-
notification
if
to
you're
them.
touching asbestos.
Okay, I let you speak. Can I speak, Mr.
Mm-hmm.
Manager? Whether you're going to do any demolition, any construction, anything at all whatsoever, there has to be a survey, there has to be testing. There is a protocol, and there's a reason why there's a protocol to be done beforehand, so exactly what took place this time won't take place again. Most materials, this construction project was done in 1939. I mean, maybe there has been some amendments, I don't know, I doubt it, but to make sure that there's no asbestos in the tiles, the floor tiles, ceiling, wallboard, joint compound, it's done beforehand. So you did a test today. Did you notify the DEP that that was taking place today? Have you spoken to anybody at DEP? Why wouldn't you? Why, I don't understand why you wouldn't pick up the phone considering the significance of this. Because I have spoken, I have been called by ranking officials at DEP asking me, and they knew nothing about this. So when you sit here and say the DEP knows all about this, DEP doesn't know all about this. They know about it now.